I feel really sad to be here. This isn't my first difficult situation, but it's the first time I've been in this particular place. I'm a guy in my early 30s, and I've been married to my wife since 2007. In 2011, things got really tough when she cheated on me and tried to leave for another man. It wasn't a successful attempt because he turned out to be not so great, and she realized it within a couple of months. At that time, our marriage wasn't going well. We didn't communicate well, argued a lot, and both had some issues. I was feeling down, and she was sometimes emotionally and physically hurtful. We got married young and had a lot of baggage from our pasts. Despite all the difficulties, I loved her and believed in our marriage. I could see that she was heading in a bad direction, and I wanted to help her. In 2011, I fought hard to bring her back from the other guy. It was a tough time, and I did most of the work to fix our marriage because she was deeply confused. Eventually, she showed remorse and started working on herself and our relationship. After a few years, I had to accept that she might never fully understand what I went through. Although she took responsibility, she still sometimes thought I was partly to blame or that we had broken up, even though she left me and I was trying to get her back. By 2013 or 2014, things seemed better and we were happy. Although there were a few times when she got too close to other guys emotionally, and she even sent a semi-nude picture to someone, we moved past those issues. I thought everything was fine. She dealt with her anxiety and depression, and we were in a better place. In 2016, after going through 3 miscarriages, we were overjoyed when she got pregnant and wanted a baby for a long time. Last week, my wife shocked me by revealing she had been having an affair since July 2016. She confessed because she wanted to be honest before our daughter was born, which surprised me since she waited until we had only 2 months left before the baby arrived. She claims she loves me and always has, but admits she was selfish, delusional, and too weak to stop the affair. She enjoyed the attention. Even though others say she shouldn't have told me, I don't regret knowing. She felt guilty, and despite her deceit, guilt catches up to her. I believe deep down she doesn't want to hurt others. I think she might have a mood disorder like narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, or bipolar disorder. When she told me, it seemed like she didn't fully grasp the damage she had caused or understand the gravity of her actions. Over the past week, I've realized how broken she is. They didn't go all the way, but they did a lot, meeting 4 times in person and texting several times a week. She kept her double life hidden well, and I was blindsided despite being experienced with red flags. She had been a bit moody, but that's common in pregnant women. She admitted it's entirely her fault. There's hardly any confusion, and she's desperately trying to fix things now. She acknowledges that I was a wonderful husband, doing everything to take care of her, our baby, and being a loving husband and father. She's given me access to her phone, social media, everything, and even cut off contact with the other guy. I confronted him and he disappeared like a spineless person. Now I'm in a really tough spot. I'm devastated once again. I don't know if I want to stay in this marriage, but there's a twist. I have a daughter arriving in just 2 months. My wife came clean about everything, and she seems more sorry than she was the first time she messed up. She's openly saying she has a problem with seeking attention, almost like an addiction, and she's trying hard to fix it. She's going to meetings and counseling. She has reasons for what she did, like feeling lost when becoming a mother and needing an escape because of our past miscarriages. But those reasons don't seem good enough. My heart is really hurting, and I'm not sure if I can go through with this. I might never forgive her for bringing our daughter into a messed up home. I don't want to repeat my parents' mistakes. They stayed together for the kids but got divorced when I was a teenager. On the other hand, I don't want to miss out on my daughter's firsts if I leave. I haven't talked to a lawyer yet, and the idea makes me really sad. I just don't know what to do. I promised myself I would never accept this again, and here I am, thinking about it. I know the timing seems strange, and it hurts to doubt if this daughter is really mine. I believe she is, but I'm planning to do a paternity test just to be sure. I'll also get an STD test again. I'm not sure when to do the paternity test because doing it before birth feels invasive, and I don't want to harm the child. Waiting until after might not be legally feasible, so I'll need to talk to a lawyer. I have access to my wife's phone and email, and so far nothing seems suspicious. She's set up individual counseling, and we've been to 1 marriage counseling session. She started scheduling them right away. Her excuses for what happened are pretty bad, and I can analyze them a lot. She's addicted to attention, the honeymoon period, and making her own mistakes. She really doesn't like herself deep down. It's going to be hard to tell if she's truly sorry or just being manipulative. That's why I'm in a wait-and-see mode. One of the big problems is I might never be able to trust her again. I have to prepare for the possibility that she really wants to reconcile, and that my daughter is mine. If that's true, then I need to figure out if staying is worth it and if my wife is really committed to changing. But what about my daughter? Do I break up our home and miss important moments, or do I tough it out for a while and see if things really change? I know it's crucial to focus on healing and insisting on love and respect for myself. Before the baby is born, I'll get a paternity test. My wife has offered to schedule it and cover the cost herself. Despite the problems I've described, she's successful and talented, not a complete disaster, even though it might sound that way. The paternity test can be expensive, around $1,500, and with potential divorce lawyer costs, it's a lot of money. But it's necessary, and I'll find a way to manage it. I understand the importance of the DNA test, and I'm not naive to ignore it. It's a tough realization, but there are reasons for me to believe the affair didn't start until after the pregnancy. Still, I need to know for sure. If paternity is proven, at least I can plan accordingly. My plan changes significantly if the daughter isn't mine. I'll consult with a lawyer and move on. If the daughter is mine, I'm still uncertain about reconciling and how to stay involved in her life. The $1,500 for the test is small compared to potential child support, and I appreciate any help with finding a place for the test. I'm more composed now than I was this morning. I talked to my wife, and she agreed to the paternity test, even encouraging it. She says she has nothing to hide and is certain it's mine. However, I've learned not to trust everything, especially considering her ability to compartmentalize during the affair. Regarding the question about physical abuse, there were instances in the first 5 years of our marriage, but she has improved with counseling and hasn't had any issues for about 5 years. I believe our daughter will be safe, but I'm keeping an eye on things. I'll be in limbo for a while, waiting for the paternity test, the baby's birth, and to see if my wife can truly change. It's only been a week since everything came to light. These next few months will be challenging, and my emotions are all over the place. She's trying harder than ever, openly admitting she's a broken person who needs help. She has appointments for individual and marriage counseling, but she doesn't know I'm planning to consult with a lawyer, just in case. It really hurts to see it spelled out so clearly, but I know you're right. My wife is someone who cheats repeatedly. We talked about it last night. She's aware of it. I can try my best to demand honesty, but how do I know if she's really telling the whole truth? I've looked at her phone messages, checked call records, trying to piece together dates. For some things, it's just her word against nothing. No proof, no way to be sure. That's tough for me to handle. Her counselor yesterday confirmed she's a serial cheater and suggested she might be bipolar, sending her to a psychiatrist next week. I'm not sure if this counselor can be direct enough with her. I'm uncertain. The details for the paternity test are being sorted out today. I might not know the answer until the baby is about a month away. I need to figure out how involved I want to be in the late-stage pregnancy and the delivery. I don't want to be there to support her, but I also don't want to miss the exciting moments like feeling the kicks. It's a tough situation. The phrase, "fool me once," doesn't feel accurate, and even my own name doesn't feel right anymore. I can't know anything right now. I'm a mess. I'm trying to handle this and prepare for the possibility of being a father while not falling apart or causing harm to myself or my daughter. It feels nearly impossible. I'm looking for a counselor as soon as possible to navigate through the whirlwind of emotions. Meanwhile, my wife is apologizing, crying, and doing everything to make things right, scheduling counseling, paternity tests, joining groups. She's even going to a ex-love addicts group. She's trying to be sweet and kind, doing things like making breakfast at 4 a.m. when I go to work. It makes me pause and wonder if we can get through this. We had a good life, a cozy house, decent jobs, a close group of friends. We were best friends. I was happy. But now it feels like a lie, at least one part of it. I'm being honest here. I know how bad the situation is, and I'm a wreck. The facts make it seem almost certain that reconciliation is impossible. If that's the case, I don't know when or how to divorce to minimize the damage to this innocent child. I expected not many people would have a situation like mine. It doesn't make sense, it's like a crazy TV show. But it's my life. The first major affair was similar. My wife tried to leave me for one of Sir Mix-a-Lot's associates. Seriously? What planet am I on? It's so absurd, I almost have to laugh at the craziness. And yes, I should have ended things in 2011. I did a lot of research into borderline personality disorder back then, when my wife had panic attacks that were more like psychotic episodes. I even suggested she might be borderline, but thankfully, I backed off and she forgot about it. She went through a lot of therapy, took medication on and off, and eventually got a handle on her anxiety or whatever it was. It's been at least 5 years since she had those meltdowns that made me think she might have borderline personality disorder, BPD, early on. The counselor I saw during those first few years suggested she might be borderline, but not quite. We've been happy, or so I thought, for a long time, and I haven't thought about it for years. Now that you've mentioned it, I might have to explore this again because it's still a possibility. She shows some symptoms of bipolar disorder and some of BPD, but she's functioning at a high level now, and it's hard to tell. I had no idea about this affair or the brief emotional affair a few years ago, so I don't know what to believe. I was oblivious, and that hurts. No matter how well she hid it, I feel like I should have known somehow. So far, she hasn't faced many consequences. I, her perfect husband, stopped doing everything around the house because I can't bring myself to do any work or baby prep. I might not be able to help much during labor or birth, and I might not even choose to be in the room. I don't know. Few consequences overall, and there's little I can do except leave. If the baby is mine, which I believe it is, my decision becomes a nightmare. Do I stay? Do I help? Do I divorce right away and co-parent? The paternity test is on its way, and I should have an answer in 2-3 weeks. She hasn't resisted therapy at all. She has a plan, going to Celebrate Recovery, SLAA, XT Love Addicts Anonymous, as well as individual and marriage counseling. 4 different paths. I don't know if it will accomplish anything, but she seems more sincere than ever. Of course, it may not mean anything. Rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, indeed. The other man wasn't married. He has a girlfriend, but I don't know who she is, and finding out might cause problems. I'm not ready to reveal this to everyone yet. If word gets out, my friends and family might disown her, making parenting or potential reconciliation much harder. None of the other men involved in these situations are married. In the affair in 2011, I did reveal the other man's relationship with his live-in girlfriend, though reports say they weren't really together and just co-parenting anyway. Setting money aside for a polygraph is hard. Unfortunately, I have to think about finances. I'll likely be supporting the baby on the way, and my wife won't have any income until months after the baby. Real estate takes time. We're spending money on counseling, paternity tests, etc. It adds up. I'll try because I think it's important, at least something I need to consider. Lastly, if the baby isn't mine, I won't raise it. I know in my heart I couldn't do it. I would walk away. It's not just the baby that's keeping me here, it's that I know I couldn't overcome the resentment and bitterness. Maybe it would be different if the baby was already here, and I had been raising it as my own unknowingly. Today is a tough day. I know I need to focus on myself and healing. I'll check out the healing library. Unfortunately, I feel quite alone. This situation is too unique, like uncharted territory. D-Day happening 2 months before the baby? A possibly ex-addicted wife? Possible mood disorders? Seriously, this specific betrayal is crazy. I haven't even grasped how violating it is. Update. Long story short, my wife had multiple affairs, the most recent one discovered in December. I found out when she was 7 months pregnant. We have a 4-month-old daughter now, and P-tests and the look test indicate she is 100% mine. In my intro post back in December, I got a lot of advice to leave. I didn't take that advice, though I remain uncommitted. I really want to see my daughter grow up, and now that I've been there for the first few months of her life, I'm debating whether now is the time to commit or leave. Anyway, I thought everything was out of the bag regarding this last affair, which for the duration of her pregnancy consisted of oral X and a bunch of X-ting. OM didn't want to sleep with a pregnant woman, but everything else was fine. Turns out there were 2 specific details she didn't reveal at first. One, OM took a few videos of her in the act. That in itself is awful, and there is no telling where those videos ended up. It makes the Mind movies 1000% worse for some reason. But here is the kicker, the grand finale. Because they weren't sleeping together, OM really wanted to see and imagine her sleeping with him. Over the course of their affair, WW revealed that she and I had made a few videos of our own in the past. So she sent him some sections of our own home videos, including our honeymoon video from 10 years ago. Now, regardless of whether or not anyone thinks it's smart to take videos, even with your spouse, this violation feels incredibly personal and horrifying. I'm shocked by how heartless it is. It means she was watching me on screen and thinking, okay, I'll send OM this video of my husband and I. There is no way to use the I wasn't thinking defense because she is literally staring at me as she makes the decision. I found out this last detail yesterday, and I don't even know how to start processing it yet. I feel dirty and immediately felt compelled to shower. Almost as if I had been raped. I don't want to minimize rape victims, I'm sorry. But the personal violation of him looking at me and her against my will is utterly vile and reprehensible to me. I can't believe she pulled me into her affair. But our honeymoon video from 2007, we were just young'uns. Seriously? I feel like she managed to go back in time and cheat in our past also. Is nothing sacred to this woman? Clearly not. In any case, yeah. I don't know where else to turn to vent. I'm just flabbergasted at this, and I'm guessing nobody has experienced anything quite like this. WW is indeed interested in R. She's been going to SLAA weekly, and has been basically confirmed as some kind of love relationship addict. She's been going to IC and has been truly bending over backwards to make this work. But yeah, multiple affairs over 10 years is not something I'm excited about working through. Unfortunately, the alternative is leaving my infant daughter. Not an easy place to be. She's always been focused on her appearance, especially since she worked as a musician and spent a lot of time in the spotlight. Being pregnant triggered some self-esteem issues for her, and she sent the other man a video of her younger self when she felt more attractive. It's a tough blow for me because those videos are our most private moments from when we were newlyweds. I told her it feels like I might as well have cheated with him myself. I worry about the possibility of someone stumbling upon these videos in the future and the lasting damage it might cause. I'm certain my daughter is mine. I did a prenatal test that confirmed it and she looks just like me. I've been skeptical about the no-ex claim, but at this point, I've accepted that I may never know for sure. The extent of the betrayals, regardless of the details, is bad enough. My wife is taking steps to address her issues. She's attending support groups, getting counseling every week, and has quit the bands she was in. She's even considering being a stay-at-home mom to keep our family together. I gave myself a 6-month time frame to see how things would unfold with our newborn daughter, and I'm currently at month 4. This latest betrayal has made me reconsider my leaning towards reconciliation. It feels like she went back in time to cheat on me as a newlywed, violating our wedding vows and me in a very personal way. It's sickening, and it might be too deep for me to consider rebuilding our relationship. Leaving means I'd only get to see my baby daughter half the time, and I'm not in a good place to be a single working dad during the time I do have with her. It's a tough situation, and I really don't like it. Staying is the only way I can have a say in my daughter's well-being, but getting full custody is unlikely, and I'm not sure if I could handle it on my own without much family nearby. Whether sharing a video like this is a crime is currently being debated. People have been sued for videos being posted, but I'm not sure if simply sharing it is a crime. Either way, it's very foul and despicable. It shows how low she was willing to go to please the other man. I spoke with my therapist today, and he basically said not to make any rash decisions. Being in shock after an exposure like this is normal, and I'm definitely in shock. This feels like a completely different kind of betrayal than the affair itself, and it seriously complicates the emotions and recovery, let alone reconciliation. It's hard to imagine much worse that she could do. Right now, I'll take some time to work through my emotions and figure out what I'm feeling. There's no place in my head for this to go. My mental file cabinet doesn't have a folder for this, even though I have a fully stuffed folder labeled affair stuff. This betrayal, this violation, is beyond my understanding. Hi everyone, looks like I misunderstood. I only have one child, not another on the way. My wife was 7 months pregnant in December when I found out about the affair she'd had for most of her pregnancy. That child is now born, and she's my only daughter, aged 4 months. It's funny you mention your friend from years ago who was all about the attention. My wife first described this as some kind of addiction to attention, which a counselor in SLAA basically said is X addiction. Lots of X addicts aren't in it for the X. They are in it for the validation, attention, and their deep need to feel wanted. That is my wife. Anyhow, the final twist in this saga is my wife's current therapist has said she's likely borderline or has borderline tendencies. Yay. She's high-functioning and has learned to handle most of her BPD episodes, but early in our marriage, she was a handful, to say the least. My therapist says I likely have PTSD from those early years. Back to the main point. Everyone is right about me figuring out if I can stay with someone who needs to struggle hard to avoid this behavior, and how maybe separating could be better for our daughter in the long run. I get that. I'm questioning whether staying is worth it or the best choice. She has a sponsor, is deep into a 12-step program, goes to individual counseling weekly, and we're also doing couples counseling. I see that she wants to change and talks about the old her and the new her. But it will take a long time before I feel hopeful or can commit. I just don't know right now. I'm not sure if I'm considering reconciliation or not. After this last revelation, I'm not making any decisions. This feels like rock bottom. She's an addict and claims she's committed to recovery. When I think about how she showed our videos to OM, I picture a heroin addict in a dark corner, shooting up, completely disconnected from life and anything good, any higher power. I have a 4-month-old daughter to think about, and I want to see her grow up and spend time with her. As my therapist said yesterday, this complicates things, a lot. This refers to the stuff about the videos, the last piece of the puzzle that I found out about a few days ago. It's complicated. Today I'm just dealing with the feelings of being horrifically violated. I'm not making decisions or thinking about the future. I'm trying to get through today without breaking anything, pounding on OM's door, smashing his phone, or packing up and hauling off across the country. Made it through another day, but the reality of how awful this video garbage is. It's one thing to make videos of her and OM. It was his idea, not hers, but still. That's painful on its own, knowing this jerk has videos of him and her. Who would want video proof of their cheating, by the way? That's just flat out stupid, on top of the obvious pain it causes for the person being cheated on. But the videos of us? How twisted is that? Including our honeymoon video, which basically destroys any semblance of anything sacred we had from before her first affair in 2010-2011. It's incomprehensible. I am definitely still in shock, but this is an angry day. We have couples counseling tomorrow. The therapist has been pretty grounded, so I'll be interested to see what she says about this. I'm not blowing this out of proportion, right? Sending OM videos of us is really incredibly vile and twisted, right? I feel like I'm going crazy and don't even know which way is up today. Okay, I agree, it's a terrible form of betrayal. I do feel like I was an unwilling participant in a three-way or violated. I feel disgusting. I can't shower enough to make myself feel clean. I'm not supposed to make any decisions while I'm in the early stages of trauma. Apparently that's what my IC said, but today, I really don't want to stay. Even if I have to stay, I'll have to deal with the emotional fallout of this, but not like this. This might be too much. Counseling is in a few hours. I hate looking forward to anything too much because I get disappointed, but I need something to look forward to, and I'm looking forward to counseling. I don't know what it can do, but even an opportunity to talk about this without WW getting tired or defensive will help. I'm struggling just to make it through a few months at a time without being overwhelmed with anger or hurt. Just to be clear, there hasn't been any physical abuse. My WW has never gotten physical. Not really. I'm not 100% sure this video stuff is a deal breaker for me or not. I think I'm waiting until I'm not so immediately crazy to decide, and that's what the IC was saying. Since prior to the video stuff, I decided to try and work through it, I shouldn't necessarily change my mind in an immediate and rash way. You know, I wish it was that easy to just up and walk away. I think we all know it's tough. I'm sitting here with my 4-month-old daughter who is just learning to crawl, and she looks up at me and smiles. If I leave, I am almost guaranteed to miss at least 50% of these moments, and possibly far more. WA is a no-fault divorce state. Of course, she needs good role models and healthy parents. If I'm insane, I'm neither. But giving up and walking out literally means I give up at least half my life with my daughter. As a little extra background, for better or worse, WW had 3 miscarriages over the last 2 years before our daughter was finally born. That might make her affairs more painful, but it also means I was that much more attached to DD. I was hoping the counselor would say, "Wow, that is messed up," and hold her accountable, but that never really happens. That's not the point anyway, is it? We talked about how incredibly hurtful it is, and how I feel like the videos ruined my past as well as the present. But really, the counseling just kind of focused on what we could do to help me process things and take care of myself. Getting more alone time, having WW take the baby more often so I could get some exercise or see friends, etc. It all feels a little empty and too little too late. Edit. Oh yeah. Both her individual counselor and our marriage counselor have said that shame will only make her feel worse and more likely to act out. And I get that shaming beating her down will not do any good. At the same time, it seems like the alternative is them saying, "Suck it up, it happened." She is doing everything she can to be a better partner. Going to SLAA, talking to her sponsor regularly, going to individual counseling, going through a full 12-step essay program so she can figure out exactly where she goes wrong and prevent it from happening again. Only time will tell, I suppose. In the meantime, I need to decide what to do. Eventually. Yeah, maybe. The thing is, I really liked this MC, aside from a few times she went easy on her. The thread I'm hearing from MC and WW's IC and others is that shame feeds addiction. Shame does not prevent behavior from happening again. I get that. It does make sense. All 12-step programs point out that shame and self-hatred will lead to relapse. On the other hand, it seems like not feeling shame is just sweeping it under the rug. It's a conundrum. If you want a happy marriage, I'm hearing, you need to encourage your WW to be happy and not shame her. Don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting around calling her names or even hammering home what she's done to me, but by not focusing on my own recovery, I am increasing her shame. That's probably why this is hard. Well, it's also why addicts are hard to deal with. After WW had 3 miscarriages for a child we desperately wanted, seeing her 7 months pregnant in a sobbing heap on the floor made it impossible for me to go fire and brimstone. The last thing I wanted was for her to go into labor 10 weeks early or to cause damage to our daughter. I immediately imagined how Dee Dee was feeling all her rotten emotions from the womb, so I tried to temper my emotions. IC says it was bad, that I've suppressed feelings that have turned into poison for my soul. I agree. Looking back, I'm not sure how I could have handled it differently at the time, so maybe that means I still have some growing and learning to do. Put me in that same situation now, and I don't think I could unleash hell and fury, knowing Dee Dee was still sucking her thumb innocently in her belly. Now it makes me want to unleash fire and brimstone, but it's a little late. Hence my dilemma. Stay or go. What to do? Concerning accountability, our counselor does some amount of holding her accountable. It's more that she prods me to hold her accountable in our sessions. She has never once made it seem like I shoulder any of the responsibility for her affairs, which is good, as I have been in that situation before. I think I'm just hoping the counselor will berate her, which is not her job. She's actually pretty good. I think I'm the one getting fatigued of having to try endlessly to make her see how much she has hurt me, and she's saying she gets it but me not feeling like she does. The endless cycle. It's not healthy. Today I did a lot of research about divorce lawyers online. I hate doing that. But even though she is making a multitude of attempts to change, the fact remains that I'm just not sure I'll be able to forgive. Of course, every day, every hour I feel different than the last. I was firm that her support group had to be women only. You're 100% right that any hope of reconciliation would be doomed if she was sitting in a room with other male addicts. Throwing chum into a shark tank. It makes me sick to my stomach, but I spent a good chunk of time yesterday looking for divorce lawyers. I'm not ready yet, but want to consult with one to get my ducks in a row in case that's what I decide to do. I want to meet with a divorce attorney without her knowing, which makes things interesting. Either I find one near my work, downtown urban core, probably very expensive, or I find one near my home, deep suburbs, far cheaper but much harder to meet without her finding out. Working out the actual logistics is difficult, and we share the same money, which means the second I start paying a lawyer, the cat's out of the bag. I have individual counseling today. We'll see how that goes. Went to a support group for spouses yesterday, and it's always nice to hear from a small group of like-minded partners. I was fairly hard on her during a text conversation near the end of my workday yesterday. I get that beating her up over things isn't usually productive, but I was so frustrated and she lacked any compassion, was just trying to fix me by suggesting I do more individual counseling, journal, etc., as if that'll magically make me feel okay that she sent explicit videos of me and her to the other person. She's getting defensive now. It's like she's in a stage of her recovery from ex addiction, where she doesn't want to hear about her mistakes, just wants to focus on the future. She even mentioned considering leaving last night. I've always made it clear that she needs to put in the effort to make this work. If she's thinking of giving up after just 7 months, that says a lot, especially since she recently told me the truth about some things. I'm not ready to make a final decision and give up seeing my daughter. Thanks for staying supportive. I agree. It's very strange, and that's making it challenging for me to figure out how to handle it. She says, they weren't having X, so he wanted the next best thing, I guess. And he kept insisting until she gave in. I think she was willing to do anything to keep him interested and maintain the validation she was getting. He's a PORN addict. I don't even want to know how she knows that, and he didn't care about her at all. That's the real issue. That's why it shouldn't seem that strange. He didn't care about her. He was just using her like his personal source of adult content. It makes me sick that she let herself be treated like that. And it makes me sick that, considering his interest in PORN, there's a good chance that videos of my wife, and possibly me and my wife, could end up on the internet. This is some seriously messed up stuff. On Saturday night, WW and I had a disagreement after she spent the day at a realtor's event. I sent her several texts throughout the day, and her responses were sparse. This always concerns me, especially since it was an event with drinking involved, a wine tasting, and she was partnered with another realtor who I've always suspected is interested in her. When she got home, she seemed a bit tipsy, having had 2 or 3 glasses of wine. She felt I was being controlling for getting upset about her lack of response to my texts. We eventually put it to rest. The next day, we continued talking, and she admitted that the guy she was partnered with got inappropriate with her. It all happened in public, never alone, but he made a flirty comment like, "What would you do if I came on to you?" She claims she shut him down, and that it would never happen. Then, she dropped a bombshell. She confessed to being an ex-love addict and having had affairs on me. She insists she loves me and is trying to work through it. Interestingly, he chimes in, saying, "I'm an ex-addict too." She clarifies that she's a real addict attending SLAA with a sponsor, and he backtracks, admitting he just likes X. So anyway, my alarm bells are going off all over the place. We've already agreed that talking about X is 100% off limits with any man, and we don't tell anyone about our problems unless we agree to it. She broke both of those, but she says it was an attempt at being honest with him and making him realize he can't get anywhere with her. I think it had the opposite effect. This feels like a huge emotional mess to me, and I've told her how much it bothers me, making me feel violated and worried about her heading toward another affair. I'm pretty lost here. She claims she was trying to do the right thing. My IC has been talking about being a truth teller, meaning I should express my feelings, and she says she was taking that advice to heart, being honest with this guy about why he should stop pursuing her. It sounds crazy, but she insists she felt that way. I've thought about a postnup. It seems too harsh to me, almost like predicting our marriage will fail. I haven't brought it up to her yet. Honestly, I don't know much about them. Regardless, I'll still have to support DD no matter what happens. Lastly, there's something positive, idiot. I also think it might turn out well. She was honest with me. She didn't have to be, she never has to be, obviously, and she knew it would be an issue when she told me. So she is trying, and I do think her heart is in the right place, validation issues aside. I'm just afraid now that we've already chatted about it a time or two. When I bring it up again, it might seem like I'm just reaming her for it repeatedly. I need to find a tactful way of saying, hey, I know we talked about this already, but here are some other things that worry me. Deep breath. Okay, so I'm getting some good insights here. I just can't quite think she's that malicious right now. I just can't. She's working too hard. Part of WW's issues is that she sends signals to everyone that she's interested. She doesn't even realize it anymore. It's a habit or second nature. She is meeting with her sponsor weekly, going to SLAA, and talking to an IC to break that habit and understand how her words and actions come off to people. I still believe she is often genuinely clueless. I mean, I watch her interact with people and have seen her accidentally draw people in a million times. She doesn't realize she is charismatic. She doesn't realize that asking questions shows interest and will draw people in when she has no interest in chatting. This event was a wine walk put on by her work, so it was drinking-centric. That is part of the problem. I do believe they were able to have this conversation while walking around town and doing their job because there would have been plenty of places that were public, but with nobody around to listen type situations. And yes, I realize she's not a safe partner, and this was totally unacceptable. I never said this was okay to her. I said the opposite. I did use the I'm not trying to punish you, but we need to talk about this line, and we talked last night. She understood completely why it was so unacceptable, agreed that she should never tell anyone about our issues without discussing it with me first, and sees now why she just printed a roadmap for this guy to get with her. Unfortunately, cutting off contact is not really possible unless she quits her job, and that seems extreme for this situation. She sent him a cease and desist text, telling him she shouldn't have shared personal details about her relationship, expressing discomfort with his advances, and insisting on maintaining a strictly professional relationship. He called and apologized, and I heard the conversation, finding it satisfactory. Afterward, I reminded her that an apology is part of the strategy to win her over, and she needs to be extremely cautious with him. She willingly disclosed this situation to me when I had no way of finding out on my own, which I interpret as an attempt to be honest, since I've emphasized the importance of transparency. I've set clear boundaries and we discussed and agreed upon them. So everyone is right, she's not completely safe. She's still early in learning to deal with her ex-addiction, and this mistake is more significant than it seems. However, it's not enough for me to end our attempt at reconciliation yet. I'm thinking about bringing up the idea of a post-nup, but I haven't decided yet. Charisma becomes a problem when her boundaries are lacking. Your mother has boundaries. Yu does not, at least not yet. She's better now than a few years ago, believe it or not. The whole issue revolves around boundaries. Ultimately, that's the core of the problem. Too much information and poor boundaries. Talking about too much information, my wife just told me she thinks she has a yeast infection. Naturally, I'm concerned it might be something else. We both got tested for STDs a while ago, but now I'm worried. I suggested she should see the doctor to make sure it's nothing more serious. The controlling statement is a major issue for me that hasn't been addressed. She got defensive and accused me when I had a legitimate reason to be worried. That bothers me a lot. We've been discussing this for 2 days, and even though I'm not eager for more conversations, we need to address it. That wasn't okay. Regarding the event, it was a work-related obligation for her, and she had to attend. I assumed she was working the whole time, but she was sort of working. Even her conversation was with a partner assigned to work a registration booth with her for the event. I was at home taking care of our 6-month-old daughter. Having a baby means I can't always attend events like this, and vice versa. We did discuss the alcohol aspect, and she mentioned it was a wine tasting, making it hard to gauge how much she'd had. I made it clear that she shouldn't be drinking without me around anymore, and she agrees. It's a risk factor. She works as a realtor, so each person essentially runs their own business and there's no HR. She has several bosses overseeing the office whom she can turn to if things get out of hand. I'm satisfied with the messages and phone conversations they had and the boundaries she set for now. However, I still have a lot to think about and discuss. We'll see how tonight goes. I've been attending S-Anon meetings, and I have one tonight where I'll share about this. I don't think I'm handling any of this the right way, but I'm getting a bit mixed up inside and need to straighten my thoughts. This situation is tough. Yes, she let her addiction kick in, as you mentioned. It was like having one drink. She hasn't had any drinks in the 9 months since everything came out. I'm not ready to give up after just this one slip-up, but she's handling it poorly. We are 9 months into this process. While she has shown plenty of remorse along the way, in the last few weeks, I sense that she's just tired of being remorseful and wants to go back to the way our lives used to be. None of it sits right with me, but I don't want to throw in the towel over this minor slip-up. She has an individual counseling IC session in a few hours. I hope she is honest with her counselor about the situation, and the counselor takes her to task. But I can't control that. Then I have an S-Anon meeting tonight and IC tomorrow. I'm exhausted. I don't want to play detective. I've really focused on that, and my wife has indeed told me virtually everything instead of having me find out through snooping or the grapevine. We also have a marriage counselor, MC, and we're meeting with her on Monday. Ours is pretty good, but sometimes too gentle. I feel like our counselors might be treating her with kid gloves because they know she is disordered and an addict, and apparently heavily shaming those types of people is counterproductive. Our MC does call her out, but very gently, and also focuses on me highlighting things she is doing right. So, anyway, I had a brief talk with WW, and it sounds like her individual counselor, IC, hit her pretty hard, explicitly calling this a relapse. Not a major one, and something that would barely blip on the radar for non-addicts, but it's a significant risk for her. Her IC said she has to go look at her boundaries and figure out what allowed this to happen. She emphasized that WW has to be very careful, especially because she is charismatic and people will always be attracted to her. Her IC said she can never let her guard down. After WW described my reaction, her IC also said that I reacted with classic PTSD-type reactions, which WW found eye-opening. We only talked for a second before her next appointment. Don't worry, it's an appointment with my mother about selling her house. It's legit. So I'm sure we'll discuss it more later. I feel a bit better about her IC not sugarcoating this mess, at least. Still damn exhausted, though. My IC often says I don't seem angry either. I think I just keep it inside pretty well. Actually, way too much. Until it boils over. But yeah, if I don't seem like I'm insanely angry at this, it's because I've probably become kind of numb to the atrocious things WW has put me through, and this ranks low on the list in terms of severity. In some ways, I'm still coasting through the plane of lethal flatness. To be honest, a small part of me is hoping she'll cheat again, which would be a 100% certain nail in the coffin for our marriage. I don't really want that, but it would make my decision easier. I have come to a place where I'm okay with divorce. I just really don't want to. As far as consequences, I don't know. I didn't explicitly lay any out. A few months ago, I gave her a list of boundaries. Some were deal breakers and some were might lead to divorce. This was a might one, and clearly, I'm not divorcing yet. On the question about how a woman could be an ex-addict, she's actually a love addict. Both of our ICs have said there's little difference between ex-addiction and love addiction. Even for men who are ex-addicts, it's usually not the ex, but some deep emotional void connected to the ex that is the issue. She has a void within her that normal, healthy love will not fill, and her addiction is her desperately trying to get men to love her to fill that void. No matter how many men love her, the void will never be satisfied. So I guess you could say WW is addicted to the adrenaline high of someone new, of getting attention, of being desired. Addicted to fantasy. That quickly leads to X, which is just the byproduct of feeding the addiction, and then she crashes when she realizes the new guy still leaves her feeling unloved and empty. Then pile some shame on top. Is it a true addiction? I don't know. I hate the term. There are all kinds of chemical reactions that are similar to the chemical reactions of those addicted to substances, though. You could say it's just an excuse for bad behavior. That's what I used to think. And that's fine. Or call it an addiction to ego kibbles. She spent a decade as a lead singer, being showered with ego kibbles that helped distort her view of what love and affection really are. But the addiction was there before that anyway. Foo and personality disorder issues. Anyway, I'll stop now. I've just been finding out a lot of stuff about this over the past 9 months. I've been learning about the Cartman triangle, the victim-rescuer-persecutor triangle. In our marriage, she plays the victim, and I tend to be the rescuer. I've known this for a while and tried to break away from it. The victim-rescuer dynamic started with her panic attacks, and I've worked hard not to enable it. But now I wonder if I might be enabling her addiction, which was hidden beneath the surface. I need to think more about this. I don't have addiction issues, but my father was an alcoholic, and I struggle with some codependency. I should discuss this more with my IC. Comment from a reader. I hope one day you find your limit in this endurance test. You must be really tired. Original poster's response. Your comment makes me sad. I hope I find my limit too. I've been resilient my whole life, facing challenges on my own since 16, putting myself through college without needing support. But this is wearing me down. I've been through hell and back more than once. I deserve happiness, and sometimes I'm not sure what happiness is anymore. You're right. She's sorry, but her getting tired concerns me. We all have a right to get tired. She has an infant, a demanding job, and has been in IC, MC, and a 12-step program. It's a lot, confusing and emotional. But is she just going through the motions? Is there true remorse? I wonder if she has the empathy to feel it right now or understands what true empathy is. I don't want to end the reconciliation when she's working this hard, but I need more time to see if she's displaying true remorse or something else. It's complex and challenging to unravel this. I feel sorry for your aunt with 8 marriages. Yikes. My wife says she doesn't think or remember being joyfully abused as a child, but I think she was. Her parents were unstable, bringing home strangers, and she admits some probably did things to her. I'm concerned about Dee Dee if I leave, losing control over who WW brings into the house. She doesn't want to be like her parents and loves Dee Dee, but I worry her behavior could affect us in ways that I couldn't forgive myself for. She says she'd stay in treatment even if I leave, but I have no way to guarantee that. It's interesting that you brought up what happens when our daughter gets older. I'm not sure if my wife will be upset about that, but we do have a cute daughter now, and she might be attractive when she's older. My wife is proud of that, but who knows what happens later on. I live in the PNW and actually had classes with Amanda Knox, if anyone remembers her. Her mother was a teacher at my elementary school. Apparently, they had weird mother-daughter issues with jealousy, similar to what you describe. Anyway, MC tomorrow. We'll update more later, including some thoughts on enabling. I also don't know how I wade through this hell. I'm a resilient guy to my own detriment. Okay, more thoughts. I might be enabling my wife. I know I was earlier in our marriage. In some ways, I might still be enabling her now, but it's really hard to break out of those patterns, especially with the added confusion of having a young daughter. How do I not enable my wife by occasionally watching our daughter while she's off working? These things are hard to negotiate in a normal marriage, regardless of infidelity. It doesn't feel like enabling, but maybe it is. These are things I probably need to discuss with my IC. It seems like my wife has genuinely been trying to use her diagnosis to understand herself, change her behavior, and become a better person. I believe this. She's trying. However, she hasn't been horrified by this latest incident, which I see as a red flag. She says she wasn't seeking out attention, just trying to tell the truth. I don't think she was consciously trying to get attention, but I believe she's in denial that she was seeking out that attention and on some level enjoyed it. I think there are still layers of denial she has to work through before she can make true progress. Anyway, her recovery is her recovery. I need to focus on myself. I do want more children. I'm in my mid-30s, and we make beautiful, lovely children. However, I don't know if I want more children with her yet. Yes, I am seeking a romantic relationship and would not be content with a business marriage. I want a deep and intimate connection too much to forsake that, and I'm too young and healthy to want to squander the rest of my life in a business relationship. That's not what I'm going to sign up for. So that needs to weigh into my decision-making process over the long term. Reader. Comment. For yourself, awareness of the situation you are in along with the dynamics involved is a great first step in your own healing and growing stronger. I found the human magnet syndrome, No More Mr. Nice Guy, and Getting the Love You Want all to be insightful and helpful in broadening my view on the underlying elements that I was tied up in. Ultimately, the books, some work with IC, time, and self-reflection, helped me see that I was worthy of being treated with love and respect, and that accepting anything less was toxic to me. Original poster. I want to read these books and work on myself, but I find myself reluctant. Between raising a 6-month-old SNON meetings in literature and work, I am not eager to spend much other time working on this aspect of myself, despite the fact that I know it would be good for me. Maybe that's my current exhaustion seeping in, but I find myself bitter that I even need to spend so much time dedicating myself to handling this disaster of a marriage I'm in. Maybe I need to hit a point when I'm reading for me, not for her. Reader, comment. I have moved over 10 times. When I work with a realtor, it's during the day. Does she only do her business at night? Do you mind explaining the child-rearing dynamic? I cared for the children myself when they were infants with a little help from my husband. Original poster. She does a mix of business during the day and at night, depending on the schedules of her clients. I do some watching of Dee Dee in the evenings when she is working. I wake up at 4 a.m. for work, so I actually sleep in our guest room 4 nights a week, which leaves infant rearing duties to WW. Then I share heavily in them the other 3 days. We have no daycare currently, though Grandma watches DD 1 or 2 days a week when WW simply can't bring DD to work with her. Right now, DD is nearly a mascot at her real estate office. Everyone loves her. Once or twice a week, WW does watch DD all evening and lets me go do whatever I want. Generally hit the gym, go for a long drive, or even just sleep. So she is trying to give me time. I would agree I am a fixer more than an enabler, though I have enabled her in the past and am trying to break that habit. I am spending a lot of time trying to fix myself now, healing and becoming a better father and a better person. That's my main goal. The marriage is secondary, though it would be nice for Dee if it worked out, and I sure as hell am not walking out right now because infant custody almost always vastly favors the mother. Reader comment: I, for one, think this X-addiction, love addiction diagnosis that seems to be used more and more by the ICs when dealing with infidelity is just a way of somewhat justifying and alleviating some of a serial cheater's choices. My opinion is your WW likes to be with other men, period. She is not loyal. She has no integrity. She has low morals. She should not be a wife. Original poster. She is not loyal, has no integrity, low morals, and should not be a wife. I agree with all of that. However, I do have to say that I believe she is an ex-love addict. I know ICs have been using that term more, and it's a handy excuse, but I really got very little from any of her 3 affairs. I won't give TMI, but the most recent affair was 100% about making OM happy. She got nothing out of it. Nothing. Except ego kibbles. Even her IC was flabbergasted at first because she couldn't believe how little she got out of the affair and how utterly irresistible attention is to her. She was the lead singer of successful bands for almost 10 years. She thrived on attention, and her entire identity was tied to what others thought of her. She's now realizing how destructive that mindset is and has quit every band she was part of. So she's committed to improving herself. I do need to take better care of myself, though. For months, I've been pushing through work, dealing with this situation and parenting. It's tough. Reader comment: get away for your mental health. You are holding on too tightly. It's okay to loosen that grip a little. You mentioned your wife is a good mom. Let her take on more parenting responsibilities for a while. It will help her remember what's at stake. Original poster. About 6 months ago, I went away to the ocean for a weekend, leaving our daughter with my wife. It was amazing. I want to do that again, but I feel guilty leaving our daughter with her for a whole weekend. Of course, my wife is saying she needs a break too, so I'd feel even more guilty, but I need that. Fast forward 6 years later. Update October 2023. It's been a long time. Years. I put in so much work. She just told me she wants a divorce. She's been unhappy for a while, and truthfully, I knew she had been unhappy. In the last year, she was all over the place with her career, wanting a baby, wanting a puppy, wanting to move across the country. I tried to stay stable and let her find what would make her happy during her midlife crisis. Turns out you can never trust a serial cheater. I feel really stupid for trying to make this work for so many years, finally letting my guard down only to find out she wants a divorce. She's focusing on her unhappiness, but after pressing, she revealed she's been talking to another man for 2 weeks and insists it's just been commiserating about their relationships. Look, I know I used to be an expert. More has always happened than a wayward reveals. I'm rusty, but not totally naive. I know more happened, just not sure how much. I don't know if I need to know. Divorce is happening. She has decided, and I am not going to make this work again, so if she changed her mind, I'd insist we go through with it. We have 2 kids, aged 6 and 5. I feel overwhelmed at the thought of being a single parent. I worry about what our kids will go through. I'm scared about being alone and fear that my job, which is already shaky, might fall apart. The future terrifies me. We need to co-parent well, and I don't want to put my kids through what I went through. She wants a quick mediation, but I need time to think. She hopes to keep it amicable, and I know courts in WA can be tough on dads. I'm a total mess. Can't sleep. I don't know what to do, and I can't believe this is happening again. I got paternity tests after the last round, so I know my kids are mine. I guess I know the end result of all this, even though I'm heartbroken about it. She's toxic, and there's no other way. It's true, she's not meant for marriage. The only reason we made it 17 years is because of the work I put in and my resilience. I'm still a wreck, and I guess I need an attorney consult. It's hard to go from thinking your life is fine one day to realizing everything is gone just 12 hours later. She's got her man to talk to and some seemingly supportive girlfriends, and now I've got to scramble to find my own support system, trying not to drag her name through the mud. She is a waste of space. She's turning sour quickly, unable to discuss things without getting defensive and angry. I told her to call it an affair, and she accused me of trying to control her. Maybe that's controlling, I don't know. But I just want the truth out so we can both accept it. She refuses to call it what it is, denial. She's hoping to file in a county across the state, where there isn't a 3-month waiting period, and mediate for a quick resolution. It's hard for me to say it. It's so sudden. But she's a waste of space. I gave her so many years and she's just not marriage material. Used and abused me. I can't believe I let her back in. I've called several lawyers for consults today. I see why I need to move quickly. I'm still shocked. Obviously, she's been wayward before, so I shouldn't be shocked. But it was like a light switch flipped overnight. And she's become defensive, uncaring, and narcissistic. She wasn't even acting this way during her previous affairs. Back then, she was contrite and apologetic. Now she's just blank and emotionless, unless it's to snap about how she won't talk about things. I'm so confused and heartbroken. Our 6-year-old was just excitedly talking about how WW slept in her bed last night, and it breaks my heart. She loves us, loves her parents. She is so innocent, and WW is so horribly broken. She is going to break our kids' hearts.